Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So today I want to talk about this TikTok video where this girl is talking about being ugly in school. And I think we need to talk about this because a lot of women who discuss pretty privilege, they don't understand how to attain pretty privilege. There are different kinds of pretty privilege. The question that I always ask these women is, are you trying to be pretty to men? Do you want to be pretty to women? Do you want white men to think you're pretty, black men? So that's just always a question that you should ask yourself as an exotical. And I'm using these TikToks as cautionary tales of what not to do because here in the exotical community, we focus a lot on social climbing. But let's go ahead and get into the video.
Someone who's relatively ugly, I just wanted to share my experiences being the ugly kid in school and like in real life in general. Like, if you're considered ugly, you cannot even have your own opinion. Like the minute I say something about like a student in my class, or the minute I even say something bad, they be coming at my parents and like at me being a dark skinned girl, like me being too black, like me being like black in general, like me having to be quiet and stuff. And like, why would you do that? Let's not forget about the fact that I get ignored when I say stuff. When I'm
So, first, I want to emphasize the fact that a lot of these videos where Black women are talking about colorism, texturism, featureism, or not fitting beauty standards, a lot of their videos have to do with school settings. So, they're not considered pretty at their high school, they're not considered pretty at their HBCU. And it's like, okay, so instead of simply admitting to yourself, I want to be the pretty popular girl in high school, I want to be the pretty popular girl at my HBCU, they'd rather come on TikTok and talk about how much it sucks being ugly. But I also want to point out the fact that this girl said that people will point out her blackness. And so she's tying blackness to being ugly. So she's actually giving those like racist people what they wanted by telling the whole world, hey, everybody, just so you know, people said that I was ugly because I'm black. So she's announcing it in front of thousands of people. And it's like, okay, what do you want us to do? And this is why I say a lot of times women who come online talking about how ugly they feel, oftentimes that's a way to get attention and fish for pity compliments. But let's continue.
we're pretty friends and like my friends that they never get ignored by boys, only me. Like the minute I say something,
Okay, so she also said that her pretty friends never get ignored by boys, only her. So she's letting you know that her view of beauty is centered around the male gaze. She wants to have a male centered form of pretty privilege. She wants to be considered pretty in the eyes of non black men, I'm guessing. But that's another social strategy mistake because if I want to be considered pretty to the male gaze, all I have to do is ask myself, okay, what kind of man do I want to think that I'm pretty at school? For example, let's say I want to be popular in high school or college, which I did actually want to be popular when I was in college. And so the way that I did it was thinking to myself, what kind of guy do I want to think that I'm pretty? Who do I want to praise my beauty? Black men at my HBCU, white men that go to the other colleges in the city. So with this girl, it sounds like she didn't have any sort of social strategy before she went into school. Maybe she just felt entitled or thought that you could just walk into the school and people are automatically going to like you. And I think that for some people that's true, but guess what? Just because somebody else got it like that, it doesn't mean that you're automatically going to have it like that. And I've noticed that some women, they get offended by that and they're not able to level up because they don't know what their own flaws are. They just want people to automatically almost coddle them. So the same thing that they accuse people of doing with black men, like being coddled, coddling black men or like not telling them their flaws or causing them to grow up to be codependent. I'm actually seeing this quality with this girl who is creating this TikTok because the fact that she's going into school kind of expecting to automatically be popular with no social strategy, I just feel like it's less likely to happen. And these girls are probably teenagers or in their early 20s, but this is actually a good example for the exoticals, though. If you want to be popular, if you want to be seen as pretty, or you want to be, I don't know, the popular cheerleader at your HBCU, always go into a social setting with your own social strategy. That's what social climbing is. So before you even get to the school, you want to think to yourself, okay, do I want to be the popular class president? Do I want to be a cheerleading type? What kind of vibe do I want to give off? Do I want to be known as the girl who's like really good at dancing or the girl who's really artistic? Just a tip.
I think one time, like it's not really long ago, like in school, like we had English, and I was paired up with this one boy in class, and like I said something, I don't know what I said, but like it for sure triggered the boy, and like he just said like something like, yeah, stop talking with that hairline, like, oh, your forehead makes me angry. Okay, like okay. And whenever someone like is like making fun of your appearance, you just have to act like you did not hear them, or like you're being dumb, because it really hurts. Like,
Okay, so she said anytime someone makes fun of your appearance, you have to act like you did not hear them. That's false. Um, Another social climbing strategy for exoticals. If somebody makes fun of your appearance, you can either clap back if you would like to. You can report them. Like if you're in school, you can report them to the teachers, the principal. Did you know that I've actually been reported before? I mean, people do this to exoticals all the time. They try to report us. People will be Karens against us. They will try to report us for bullying. And so this is why I am a promoter of having some Karen skills. Okay, this is the benefit of having a multifaceted identity. I have some Karen skills. Okay, I do have a little bit of Karen in me. I definitely know how to use my Karen skills if I'm being bullied at the workplace. I will report the person, or if I feel like I can't, I will say something back to their ass. I will clap right back and start talking about them. And so I feel like another social climbing mistake that women with inferiority complexes make is having a lack of boundaries, allowing people to say negative things about your looks and then repeating those negative things about yourself in front of a global audience on TikTok. This got 245,000 likes, I think, and about 15,000 comments. So instead of her simply clapping back or maybe dragging that person at school, or instead of her reporting that person to the teacher, she is now repeating how ugly this random person at her school thinks she is in front of tens of thousands of people.
that has not really to do with being ugly, but yeah, to do with being of dark skin, which the society sees as the same thing.
And another question for people who get really upset about this is, why do you care about the person who thought you were ugly in school? So this goes back to your social climbing strategy. Was one of your goals to be the pretty girl in school? Because I know for me, like, there are some areas where, yes, I really do care about being pretty. There are some moments where I care about the male gaze, but then there are other moments where it's like, look, I don't give a fuck. I'm just in the grocery store right now. Okay, so if I'm walking in the grocery store and let's say somebody calls me ugly, who cares? So this is another reason that I always say to make sure you have kind of these standards for yourself in terms of social climbing. When do I want to be perceived as pretty? Who do I want to think that I'm pretty? Who am I trying to impress with my beauty? Do I just want to meet my own internalized beauty standard? And as long as I feel pretty, that's all that matters. I can kind of be pretty in a vacuum, if that makes sense. Or do I want to be perceived as the prettiest? Because there's a difference between I think I'm pretty versus having pretty privilege or being the prettiest, if that makes sense, kind of being the most popular pretty girl. Because I've noticed that some people, it's not that they're not pretty, it's that their type of beauty is not the most popular. So that's why on this channel I start talking about plastic surgeries and all that kind of stuff, because I feel like if you're one of those people that's more into beauty trends, you're going to find yourself doing more surgeries and all that. And I'm not saying there's a wrong answer. I'm just saying that is something to think about. But let's continue.
Like whenever someone says something to a black person, and like they start saying, "Oh, you insulting me? Look at her. She's way darker than me." And I'm like,
Okay, so she's talking about her other friends of color. I'm assuming she's talking about her black friends, where they said, "You're insulting me. Look at her. She's way darker than me." So I find it interesting how people are quick to call exoticals colorist. They're quick to call everybody else colorist, but no one addresses the colorism or racism that black women have against other black women. And for those people who say, oh, Black people can't be racist. That's false. Let's pull up the definition of racism. The people who give that talking point of racism is prejudice plus power, they're only talking about systematic racism. Okay, there are multiple different kinds of racism. So there's systematic racism and there is also individual racism. So if you look up the definition, which I will pull up on the screen, an individual can be racist against another individual. If you look in the dictionary, no matter what definition you're using, it doesn't say, oh, you can only be racist if you're not a dark skinned Black woman. Oh, you can only be racist if you have power over others. No. So now this girl is admitting that her fellow women of color or Black women are saying that she is uglier than them because she is darker than them.
Yeah, but like it's not really that funny in my opinion. And yeah, nobody really likes you in your class and like stuff like that.
Okay, so notice how she also says nobody really likes you in your class. So she is kind of conflating being pretty with being likable. So being beautiful and being a likable person, those things are two different qualities. Okay? There's a difference between being perceived as cute versus I like her as a person and I'm popular. So I've noticed that a lot of women who come online and complain, deep down inside they have a desire to be popular and they think that their beauty will increase their popularity, which it can. But they won't admit to themselves, hey, I want to be the pretty popular girl in high school. I want to be the popular girl on social media. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that a lot of women with inferiority complexes, when they talk about colorism, texturism, or featureism, they will begin discussing the male gaze or they'll start talking about popularity and how they don't have it and how women with their phenotype aren't popular. This is why I say always remember that the colorism, texturism, and featureism conversation, listen to what they're saying because usually they're talking about social status. It's not about social justice. They're usually talking about social status because they'll start naming popularity. Oh, Ice Spice is more popular than the other person. This girl's prettier. She got asked to prom.
So yeah, it's not really easy to be ugly. But like it's not the end of the world. Like I can acknowledge that.
So she ended the video by saying it's not easy to be ugly, but it's not the end of the world. So take this as a cautionary tale, Exoticals. Do you want to be perceived as pretty? If so, who do you want to think that you're pretty? Do you want men to think you're pretty? Do you want women to think you're pretty? Do you want friends? Like, do you want your beauty to attract friends? You know how people are like, oh, your makeup is so pretty. Can you do my makeup? Your hair is so cute. Your outfits are cute. Can you teach me how to do the same outfits? What type of pretty privilege do you want? And where do you want to be seen as pretty? Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.